Tonight, the world holds its breath as a shadow falls over the Persian Gulf. Iran's supreme leader, in a chilling televised speech, has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point. This is no idle threat. It's a direct challenge, a red line drawn in the strategic waters connecting the Middle East's oil fields to the globe. The announcement comes just hours after new U.S. sanctions took effect, crippling Iran's economy. Feeling cornered, Iran is playing its most powerful card. If their oil can't flow, no one's will. The world is now watching, wondering if this is a bluff or the prelude to a conflict that could spiral out of control. The language from Tehran is stark. The artery of the world's energy will be severed if oppression against Iran continues. This is a desperate, high-stakes gamble from a regime with little left to lose. The international community faces a terrifying choice: capitulate to Iran's demands or risk military confrontation in the Gulf. The Pentagon is on high alert, the White House in crisis mode, and naval forces are edging closer to conflict than they have in decades. The spark has been lit. The world waits to see if it will ignite a fire that engulfs the region. To grasp the crisis, you must understand the Strait of Hormuz, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest, but the world's energy superhighway. Nearly a fifth of global oil passes through this narrow channel every day, linking the oil fields of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq to the world. Even with increased U.S. production, the global oil market is interconnected. A disruption here means prices everywhere will skyrocket. The U.S. Navy has spent decades ensuring freedom of navigation in these waters. It's a core strategic interest. For allies like Japan and South Korea, Hormuz is a lifeline. A blockade would be economic warfare against the entire industrialized world. The ripple effects would be immediate: a global recession, supply chain chaos, and economic turmoil on a scale not seen in generations. Iran's geography gives it immense leverage. Its coastline bristles with missile batteries and naval bases overlooking the choke point. They can make passage through the strait dangerous, if not impossible, using mines, missiles, and swarms of fast attack boats. Tehran's threat is not empty. They are in a position to turn the world's most important energy artery into a deadly trap. That's why the Pentagon and White House are on edge tonight. The world's economy hangs on the safe passage of tankers through these waters. The stakes could not be higher. What would an Iranian blockade look like? It's not just blocking ships, it's asymmetric warfare. First, Iran would deploy hundreds of naval mines, making the waterway impassable and halting commercial traffic. Next, land-based anti-ship missiles, hidden along the coast, would threaten any vessel that dares to pass. The risk alone could stop shipping companies and insurers cold. Then come the swarms of IRGC fast attack boats, hundreds of small, armed vessels designed to overwhelm larger ships and create chaos. This swarm doctrine is central to Iran's strategy: make the strait too dangerous to cross. Why such drastic measures? Desperation. U.S. sanctions have pushed Iran's economy to the brink. By threatening the strait, Iran escalates the conflict to a domain where it feels it has leverage. The message is clear: if Iran is going down, it will take the global economy with it. It's a coercive move to force the U.S. and its allies back to the negotiating table. The world is now forced to take Iran's threat seriously. The White House responded swiftly, and in classic Trump fashion. The president took to social media. Iran will not be allowed to close the Strait of Hormuz. If they try anything, they will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. Later, Trump doubled down at a press conference. We have the greatest military in the world. If Iran thinks it can blackmail us, it's a fatal mistake. He refused to rule out any options, including direct military action. Behind the scenes, the National Security Council convened emergency meetings, presenting Trump with military options from targeted strikes to a full-scale operation to reopen the strait. Trump's strategy calculated unpredictability, bold threats to force adversaries to second-guess their plans. He believes overwhelming counter-threats deter aggression, but this rhetoric leaves little room to de-escalate. Both sides are now backed into a corner, where compromise could be seen as weakness. The risk of miscalculation grows. The world watches as the standoff intensifies. The next move could determine whether this crisis explodes. The stakes are nothing less than war or peace. If Iran closes the strait, the impact on Americans would be immediate and severe. Gas prices would skyrocket. Analysts predict $7, $8, even $10 a gallon. Heating your home, flying, and shipping goods would all become dramatically more expensive. Inflation would surge, hitting every family's budget. The supply chain would be thrown into chaos, leading to shortages and layoffs. The shock could trigger a deep recession, wiping out years of economic recovery. The stock market would plummet, retirement savings would evaporate, and unemployment would spike. This is why the U.S. considers the free flow of oil through Hormuz a vital national interest. A blockade isn't just a distant problem, it's a direct threat to every American's economic security. That's why the stakes are so high for the White House. This crisis is rooted in decades of U.S. Iran hostility, dating back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The Persian Gulf has been a flashpoint ever since, with the tanker war of the 1980s drawing the U.S. Navy into direct conflict. In 1988, after an American warship struck an Iranian mine, the U.S. launched Operation Praying Mantis, destroying Iranian naval assets and sending a clear message: the strait will remain open. Tensions have ebbed and flowed, but never disappeared. Recent years have seen IRGC harassment of U.S. ships, tanker seizures, and drone shoot-downs. The 2015 nuclear deal was meant to ease tensions, but Trump's withdrawal and renewed sanctions reignited confrontation. For Iran, U.S. actions are seen as attempts at regime change. For America, any move to close Hormuz is a red line. This history fuels a cycle of mistrust and escalation. Both sides view each other's actions through the lens of past conflicts. That makes finding a peaceful path forward incredibly difficult. The past is never far from the present in the Gulf. As Iran's threat and Trump's response echo worldwide, global capitals react with alarm. U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE back Washington, calling Iran's move an attack on the global economy. Their militaries are on high alert, raising regional tensions. Europe urges restraint, fearing a conflict that could devastate economies and trigger a refugee crisis. Russia blames U.S. pressure, while China, dependent on Gulf oil, calls for calm and diplomacy. Both Moscow and Beijing seek to expand influence, but want to avoid a war that would crater the global economy. The UN pleads for de-escalation, but its power to prevent conflict is limited. The world is divided. Some back the U.S., others urge caution, and some look to exploit the crisis. Without a unified front, a peaceful resolution is elusive. The risk of miscalculation grows by the hour. Beyond the headlines, tension is mounting on the waters of the Persian Gulf. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet is on high alert, with the USS George H.W. Bush and its strike group moving closer to Hormuz. These ships are ready for action, their crews running constant drills. Meanwhile, Iran's IRGC Navy is shadowing tankers and provoking U.S. warships with aggressive maneuvers. Intelligence reports show Iran moving missile launchers and prepping submarines. Civilian tanker crews are caught in the middle, facing impossible choices: risk their lives or halt shipments and fuel the crisis. Insurance premiums for voyages through the strait have soared, reflecting the real risk of conflict. Every move at sea is scrutinized. Every decision could have global consequences. A single miscalculation could trigger a military exchange. It's a dangerous game of chicken on the high seas. The world holds its breath, hoping no one fires the first shot. As July 12, 2025 ends, the world stands at a crossroads. Is this a high-stakes bluff or the prelude to war? Iran could back down for minor sanctions relief, letting both sides claim victory and postponing the crisis. Or a single attack could force Trump to retaliate, airstrikes on IRGC bases, risking a tit-for-tat escalation. The most devastating scenario: all-out war. The U.S. would launch a major campaign to force the strait open, but the cost would be enormous. Iran could strike U.S. bases, allies, and global oil supplies, unleashing chaos far beyond the Gulf. Behind the scenes, frantic diplomacy is underway, with intermediaries searching for common ground. The outcome depends on choices made in Washington and Tehran in the coming hours. Will leaders choose de-escalation, or will pride and miscalculation lead to disaster? The fate of the global economy and Middle East stability hangs in the balance. The world watches and waits. The next move could change history. Tonight, the future is uncertain.